So training online with a powerlifting coach, it's a really interesting way to approach training and coaching, actually, for that matter, in that you're not confined to a set session time, for example, like you would be with in-person training, right? So if you only need 5 minutes of feedback, you'll get 5 minutes of feedback. If you need an hour of work, you'll get an hour worth of work, right? But I like to break down online coaching into really three main categories. So the first is the assessment side of things, right? Of course, getting an idea on where you're at, both in your training and also any other physical parameters and situational parameters that we want to look into. So taking a look at your lifestyle, taking a look at your schedule are things you want to examine, right? Once there's a clear baseline on where you're at, that process of assessment should actually be fairly ongoing in that in order to make sure that a training program is working well over time, you want to make sure that you're consistently keeping tabs on key metrics like estimated max, projected or your assessed readiness on a daily frequency. Those are all going to be good things to look at in order to make sure that the plan that you're executing on and the strategies that you're using are consistently allowing you to progress. From there, that actually brings us into the second category I talked about, which is progression. And so with this is where you'll commonly, if you ever looked into online powerlifting coaching before, this is what most people think of, where they might get something to the tune of like a program every week or every month, basically something to follow along with to allow them to continue to progress and increase their strength and improve their technique in their training, right? Often we'll see lifters where they need to make some technical refinements in their lifts as well. And so we'll make sure to include some resources or feedback loops, or even just feedback things like calls or video review to ensure that their technique is appropriate for the lifts. And that last piece brings us again into item number three, which is the mentorship component. So building your body is super important in the sport of powerlifting. It's a very physical sport, but where I see a lot of transitioning beginner and intermediate lifters, so basically lifters who've been lifting for a couple of years and some of the strategies they might have used in the past aren't working anymore, will get stuck, will often be not so much with having a program to follow that works, but their approach to those problems is lacking. And so what we want to address is the mind as well, making sure that you're psychologically approaching the problems you're facing in training well, as number one, and two, just how you're approaching a lot of problems outside of training, because those will start to impact you more. And so making sure you've got systems set up for being dialed in with your nutrition, even when things get busy, or how to approach recovery when things are a little tougher, or even just simply how to approach a training session psychologically when things don't go your way, because those bad sessions are going to come up. So we want to make sure that we're building your training up and your maxes and sort of all the things that would conventionally work, and then having everything in place to make sure that you're not able to hold yourself back with those either, in order to ensure consistent progression. So those are the three categories I like to break things down. In addition to that, I like to look at online training and in-person training as fairly distinct means of training. One's not just, here's a program and we're going to do a lot of the same stuff as online training and sit on Zoom for an hour, because that's really just not all that productive in powerlifting training in my experience. So where I find a lot of benefit with the online and remote side of powerlifting coaching is that it basically allows me to blend the consulting aspects of coaching with the more one-on-one side of things. Whereas in-person training becomes very real-time feedback type thing. It's very challenging to have a meaningful consulting type role in in-person sessions, because you're not going to go on you're not going to explain a 12-week program to somebody on a verbal explanation and say, hey, here you go. All right, see you later in 12 weeks. And nobody's going to remember a 12-week program. And even tougher would probably be to even just explain 12 weeks in 60 minutes or whatever it may be, right? So from the online side of things, where that blend comes in really nicely is we can basically marry up having that 12-week program or whatever it may be laid out, go in, make some little adjustments week to week, because you don't have to book an appointment to just look at a program and make some adjustments on an app or a spreadsheet or whatever it may be. And then tune in at whatever frequency the lifter needs. And if they need 5 minutes of feedback on something, we can do that. Back to my example from earlier, if they need more than that, we can do that and kind of give them what they need instead of being pigeonholed into an hour-long appointment slot or a 30-minute long appointment slot. So it's a really advantageous model. Not to say that in-person isn't useful for making some technique changes where somebody might feel something a little better with a poke on the quad or something like that. But as a big picture item for really developing the powerlifter long term, I found online to be an immeasurably better tool for that.